So I'm going to start with you, Nia. What was it about this play? I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with the play until seeing the movie. So just so you all know, it's based on a play from the 19th century. For those who don't know. And I wondered what it was that inspired you to create this specific take on this story.
Well, I just fell in love with the play when I read it back in, I was 22, doing my master's, and I was falling in love with theater, and I read A Doll's House, and I fell in love with Nora. I thought, what a fascinating character, and how exciting that this man wrote this woman who makes this decision to leave her family in order to find herself, who's her kids behind, and he presented that choice as sort of one that was completely logical and noble. And I thought, wow, how fascinating. He really is curious about women. And then I was like, what's Hedda Gabler? And I read that and I said, whoa. He said, women are crazy. I think he was really challenging us to see women as full people. Whether it was Nora or it was Hedda Gabler, the choices maybe you don't agree with, but in searching for the reason, you start to kind of question your own sense of self and your own pursuit of freedom, and you start to question, I hope, like, what is freedom, what is cowardice, what is bravery? And so all the changes I made to the source material were in pursuit of amplifying that.
And talk a little bit about setting it in 1950s London. What specifically about that time and place made it the right setting to explore these ideas?
I knew I didn't want it to be 1890 Norway. I thought it would be, every time I say that someone laughs. I thought that it would be at once limiting in terms of like just casting. I like my people of color to exist in the world that I make movies about, insofar as I can, and I also thought it would feel too distant from us. And I wanted it to stay period, but I wanted it to be a period that was recognizable, not just from a cultural point of view. I think the 50s are very present for us still culturally, but also from like a pop culture point of view. It's also why I play with the murder mystery trope in the English country house, and they're all places that feel like plays take place there, frankly. And it's all kind of about pretending and facade, so that was a big reason why the 50s, along with the conformity and the repression at the time, and then England's, again, repression. So that was the repression was the main reason, yeah.
Okay. I think another significant change, obviously, I haven't seen the original production, but I'd be surprised that it was black, and queer in the original rendition. So I wondered why that choice and how, if at all, do you think it affected the adaptation in any way?
Yeah, I just was like, she's black. That was kind of the main thing. And then I met Tessa Thompson, and I was like, oh, she's Tessa Thompson now. And then before I could make another decision about how to, we made the movie. So I think it was exciting in that way. But when I wrote it, I knew she'd be a black woman. I knew she'd be played by Tessa. I hoped really, but I kind of knew. And then I think because of that, I got to be super specific about her journey, her character, her struggle. So it wasn't just about what was in the play, but now all of those things that happen, they're filtered through a different identity than was originally thought of by Ibsen or set out by Ibsen, which, again, all the themes that I was so fascinated by were really deepened by that choice.
Tessa, so I read an article with the production designer of this movie, Kara Brower, said that Hedda's a creative modern woman who doesn't have a way to express her creativity. And I thought minus this particular recognition. So I wondered if you had a similar take on that. And what do you think Hedda adapted in this movie?
That's so interesting. I hadn't heard Kara say that, but it's so smart. And I thought a lot about, because prior to when the film begins, Hedda has been on a 6-month honeymoon with George, traveling through Europe. And I thought a lot about, because we also were meant to make a movie, and then this double strikes happened. And so we had about 4 months we were not making a movie. And I stayed in London, and I thought it would just be a couple weeks, and it ended up being a long time. And I traveled around Europe. I went to the Dolomites, which is one of the places that they went to. And I thought a lot about Hedda and what she must have been doing those 6 months, and I think a lot of it was lot of purchasing of items, then people the house around, and picking out wallpaper and preparing for this life in this house that she knew she didn't want. And making all of these really audacious choices in the interior design because she was terrified to make the real audacious choice, which is to not enter this marriage and enter a life that didn't fit too comfortably on her. And so I think that's such an astute thing for her to have said. And I think we also wanted Hedda to feel like, in some ways, a very modern woman, even at that time. So the art is an expression of that, but she is a woman that is deeply caught, not just between two worlds. George's world happens to be academia, but really that proximity to whiteness and the hope of wealth through a man that can make money, and this life of passion and freedom, that yes, is connected to her sexuality, but fundamentally connected to someone that wants to really live a life of purpose, which is what Eileen is. She has this purpose, and it's the thing I think that Hedda in the original source material is also hungering for. You know, she says, for once I want to be in charge of a man's destiny. I think what Nia did so brilliantly by making Eileen Lovborg into Eileen Lovborg is then Hedda gets to have a foil inside of this world that says, make your own destiny. And that's the thing that I cannot figure out how to do. And I thought the thing that was really interesting too is a person that just knows that they'll never be taken seriously. And I think Ray sort of adds a texture to that in our piece, and so they don't need to try, and then they can invite total frivolity into their lives. And I think it's only when this very serious person comes back into her life that she has to really contend with that choice that she knows ultimately is probably not going to make her happy. But I really loved the animal print staircase. And I do think there is a kind of fabulous woman that I have met that gets really into interior design, and that does give her a sense of purpose. And I think that's okay too. I think there's something fabulous about that too, if that's what you do.
Just curious, you know, there's a lot of conversation in the movie about Hedda's wild past. What did you think it looked like when you were coming up with the backstory?
It's so interesting because we didn't really define it. We talked a lot about what the background of these two was and what led to this moment that Hedda pulled the gun basically and wanted to kill Eileen. So I always thought it was wild, but I thought always both women were. And they brought out something really creative in each other and pushed each other, but it went slightly into the dangerous zone that you're not good for each other. And I think one big problem was Eileen was tricky. That Eileen lost control at certain moments, also because she is actually trying to push her life to become a writer, to be part of the academia, and to make it in a man's world. And that struggle is just deeply wounding every day. And she tries to cover it with having a drink, with seeing the world a bit more on the lighter side, but also with that comes being a bit more out there, being more vulnerable maybe, and that's where Hedda is maybe a bit dangerous if you're not in control or you don't see what comes from there. Because I think Hedda also back then, I always thought what Eileen says to George Tasman, you know, I know her from when she was a teenager, and I saw her riding past our window with her father, with the guns, probably in a black dress, and I think that is my image that Eileen carries within her, the freedom on someone horseback riding, being out in nature. That's why Eileen doesn't understand why she doesn't do anything with her life, why that's why she wants to push her, and kind of also goes to, in this evening, goes to the party and says, I won't call you Hedda Tasman. You are Hedda. She refuses to call her by that name because she's just not that, and I won't allow her to hide. You know? And yeah, so that was it.
I'm curious to hear a little bit about the rehearsal process for you all. You know, how long was it? What did you? I'm always curious what people do during rehearsal. If you're comfortable sharing, what that was like. I'm very curious to hear what that process was like.
All three of you just looking at me there.
It's your turn.
It's my turn. What it was like, it's like, as you say, it was very, it's unique. You know, you don't usually get to have an extensive amount of rehearsals for film, but we had like 2 weeks on location. The house, because it had been kept as it was, as these guys said before the strikes. So everything was as it was going to be, just minus the film crew and the background. But it became invaluable. We could explore the space, we could kick things around, move things around. Sean, the DOP, he was there too, so we could sort of kind of choreograph certain scenes, particularly the more complex ones, with a lot of the characters, which just, it was so amazing because we could explore that as artists and then go away and digest it. We had this Christmas break then. Is that right? We had Christmas and New Year then?
We did, yeah.
Then we had this sort of break, and that could all sort of sit and digest. And we came back, and I myself felt so excited because I could, usually when you're filming, you have an image of how it's going to be and how you're going to play a scene maybe, but it's not until you get on the set on the day that it all comes together. Walking into a set where you kind of know what you're going to find, you still get to explore in that. But I was so excited because I thought, I know what's waiting for me. I know how it's going to feel and taste and sound and what we're going to go through. But you still discovered it on the day,
Just also along those lines, what secrets did you hide from one another about your characters?
That's such a good question. No one's asked that. I want to know.
What secrets do we hold?
Yeah, as your characters, like, I feel like a lot of times you come with a choice that you're like, this is for me. And I don't know, I always feel like, and especially watching this movie, it felt like you all might have made some choices that you didn't share with one another about your past, particularly you two, I think. Your characters
I've got
have
some.
very
I know, I
strange
know.
That's such a good question. Well, I had this, it's been super interesting talking about this because a lot of people have asked me, we were asking today, remember we were doing these interviews and people were saying that George, he really loves Hedda. I thought that's super interesting because, yeah, and also he doesn't know her, like he doesn't know her really, but he loves this idea of her, but I tried to keep this, oh man, that's such a cool question, because everyone has their secrets, right? And it's all coming out. I had this sort of feeling that he did, in the same way that Eileen sees Hedda. Hedda was this incredible person that everyone around her just sort of obsessed over and idealized and objectified. And for George, he kind of wanted to own her. Couldn't believe that he said yes and wanted to marry him. I kind of had him just like, not even my back pocket, like tucked into my sock, this little secret of he really does, he's fascinated by this woman and he is kind of in love with her and wants to be the person that she is in love with, and attracted to and respects and wants to have this. But he does know deep within him that she's beyond him and her world is so different from his. And he's trying to bridge that gap, but if that can't happen, then I'm just going to go away and do my academic thing, and she's there. But that's, you guys all just watch the movie, so there's no spoiler. But that's with the fire, and when she says it's for us, and you like, I remember like talking with Nia then and just allowing my heart for the first time almost in the whole movie to just come out of my chest and then break with joy at you do love me, and I don't give a shit about anything else. I don't give a fuck about the I'm sorry. I don't give a shit about the like position. I'm not sorry.
What's the secret?
Sorry. The secret is I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. The secret is the love, I think. I think for me that was George's, the thing that he hid were his true feelings of, I do ultimately, I'm so in love with this person.
Oh wow. Anything else you'd like?
Yes. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Just curious, how am I on time? Because I have a few minutes. Want to make sure I'm on time.
We have 15 minutes.
Great, perfect.
Thank you.
Plenty of time. All right. Question. This. I'm jumping around a bit, but for Tessa. So this is the first Viva Mod film release, your production company, and I was curious what it's like acting in something you've also produced, and being, if you're a producer, you're very hands-on from the very beginning. You know a lot about everything in a way that you might not, something that you're just kind of stepping into. So I'm curious what that process was like for you.
It was different on this one because I've produced a couple. I produced a film called Passing, a film called Sylvie's Love, and
I was
and it is the first big mod, and the difference with that is other things that I produced, even like Nia's first film, Little Woods. Usually my relationship is sort of like I'm here for you. I want to develop it with you. I'm here to problem solve all the various things, and then when we make the film, it's yours, and in the edit, it's yours, because I don't have anything to offer necessarily as someone that's in the frame. I always sort of thought like you do the work, and I'll maybe see an early cut, or maybe I won't. And this time was just a very different process, frankly, and just learning how to be inside of the thing and watch the thing and have some level of objectivity. And it sort of feels, I don't know how else to liken it, and I hope this isn't an insensitive way to articulate it. I was trying to think about it the other day. It's like I always think these things, Shaka, like you make these things and it's like your baby. It sort of feels like it's your baby, but at every single point of the process when it was in utero, you also held it at some point. So then when you see the finished product, like when we took it to Toronto, I see the thing that it is now and the thing that you all saw, but I viscerally feel like I remember when it was like mushy, when we were like, it was like 7 weeks into her edit, and I was like, what did we make? The movie develops and changes, and so every step of the thing, you're looking at it like, wow, because you make the movie again, you make it 3 times, you write it, you shoot it, you edit it, and so that has been just an incredible thing, because I just love storytelling so much, and I love getting to watch the nuance of performance and edit and crafts and the difference that the tiny things make when you're making a film, and so that's been a really special thing. And then also to make something like this that I think is so perfectly kind of expresses what we want to do, because I feel like a company, you're also building the plane as you fly it, but really getting to question, who gets to be centered in a story and make something that is wholly sort of new and original and repurposed inside of stories that we think we know and understand. Was the genesis of the company, and so it feels really good to make something that goes like, okay, yeah, let's just keep making, because we're finding our way, and getting to make it with a filmmaker like Nia is just really spectacular.
Nina, you played Hedda on stage in Berlin, and I'm curious just what it was like to sort of play Eileen this time around, and specifically like one scene that really jumped out to me was the scene where you're in the library with all those men, and what's so interesting to me about it is you think that it's going to be the payoff of Hedda allowing you to, go out there and potentially embarrass yourself, but you never become aware of the fact that you have this like wardrobe malfunction, which I thought was a very interesting subversion because, as you're watching, like, oh fuck, oh man, what's gonna happen to her? And then it's a very different, reaction that you have watching the scenes. I'm just curious, like, really just about you playing Eileen, and talk a little bit about that scene and how you sort of saw the arc of that character at that moment.
Yeah, well, that scene was really, it's all on the page. I mean, Nia wrote it that way. And when I came to this moment while reading the script for the first time, I was just like, oh my God, this is so good. I can't wait. I can't wait to do this, to be in the room with all these men, because I'm also really doing it, and I am exposed. So I just thought, I felt so held by the text and by the scene, because I knew where this was heading, and that at the end of the day, he would just go, this was sexual? I think that's the joy as an actor, that you kind of know where things are going, so you can play with it. And so I was really looking forward to doing the scene, because it's one of these major scenes for me that explains Eileen to me also. It's her wit, it's her brilliant brain, it's her seeing the things as they are, seeing in a way like Hedda, the humans and the people as they are, but she takes them on, and she confronts them, she provokes them, and she does it with wit and with joy. And again, the end of the scene is that they call, what about the fucking Eileen? Get your kid up, So she doesn't hold the power till the end of it. She again gets hurt, and again finds the strength to again continue with George outside in front of her and kind of tease him. And she just wants to, like Hedda in a way, burn down the house, but just in a different way, and it gets taken out of her hands by Hedda, because in that moment Hedda has a different agenda, and I do think she doesn't really know what's gonna happen. She doesn't stop, so that's mean. but I think in that moment it's like they're very much alike, and that's why they can't let go of each other. And that is something that we discovered while working on it, and also it was something that was so amazing to me, knowing the material. As you said, I played Hedda for 6 years on the stage in Germany, in Berlin, and when do you ever get to work on the same material and then have a completely different perspective and create a new character? It was just like, and the whole relationship with Tessman and with Bruck, with Thea, it becomes its own wonderful new story, and I was just mesmerized. Found this in there, and then was also able to write like Ibsen. I mean, and not because the text, they're not. Yeah. Hey. Because you know when is Eileen saying the lines of Ibsen, and when is she saying Nia DaCosta? Yeah. So that to me was like, I felt in Nia, and I think we all did, that she has such a passion for the material. She gets it, and she just amps it up, and being precise in what she wants to tell and what her vision is, and therefore, and then is so excited about it.
Also, anecdotally, that speech is the most Nia DaCosta part of the film, I would say, because that actually did happen to Nia and I. We were in a bar, and a bartender came up and asked to smell our feet.
And I found it and went, is that sexual?
My last two inspired you to come on board with me and produce this specific project?
Nia and I met through the Sundance Labs, and I was lucky enough to produce her first film with Tessa, also on a word called Little Woods in 2017. And I love all the Little Wood love. And it was such an amazing experience for me on a producerial level, and I had worked with other directors before, and like no shade to them, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a different level. This is like so wonderful, and so like she's so good, and so like such a powerful, wonderful, like magnanimous leader. And so she sent me Hedda, I can't remember when, years ago now. 2018. And I hadn't read the play because I am not a theater. Don't hate me. So I hadn't read it. So this was my first introduction to this story at all. And I was like, I love this. This is great. And she's like, you should read the play. And I'm like, all right, fine. And so I read the play. And I was like, you made it so much better. And so it's exactly like that. But I knew that she could just like blow this away and make it so wonderful and so big and so beautiful. And with Tessa as Hedda, just like, oh my gosh, it's the perfect combination. And so it was an immediate yes, and had to make sure it was the movie that she dreamed it would be.
And my last question for you is, having worked with these two on Little Woods, however, that's 7 years ago. How's the experience of working with them changed? How have you changed as a producer? How do you feel they've changed as artists?
It was Nia's first movie and my like second movie, big whoop. But we had come from like such different backgrounds, and I think like all of us as artists have grown and like done such like huge, wonderful, like incredible, like these two women have done incredible things, like big things, and like helmed huge projects, and just it was just like an honor to get to be with them and support them in any way I possibly could, and make sure that, you know, my job is to make sure that the movie's protected and that Nia's protected and that we're making the movie that she set out to make, no matter what like other elements are constantly coming in, like 2 strikes or like whatever got like the owner of our house like being so wonderful as he was, like we can't have water in the rooms and like things like that. Just like we got to make sure that this movie is what they have set out to make, and my job is to protect that. And it was like a wonderful experience.
And also to make sure, I remember one day you were like, we need to get that job. And because it's Gabby, I'm like, you're right. But anyone else, I'm like, how dare you tell me how to do it? Because we have this trust, you know, and I would say, you know, same thing with Tessa. Tessa's like, you know, I pause, and I'm like, okay.
What was the shot?
It was actually not in the film because we did a little editing, but
On the day.
yeah, no, but it was the shot of when the manuscript went out the window, which was so fun, because if you've read the play, you would know the context in which that makes sense. We did shoot, I guess, but we changed it up a bit. Yeah.